House of the Dragon is one of the most popular shows on TV right now, but a lot of fans were upset with the most recent season. With the show being based on a book, readers view each episode with a set of expectations that the writers just weren't able to match. What exactly were these expectations though, and what exactly were the differences between the last season of the show and the corresponding chapter in the book? In this video, I will be going through each topic that they either missed or completely changed in the show, and speculating on why these decisions were made. Let's begin. Now, before I get into specifics, I do want to point out that a lot of the issues with this season is that it was very slow and they left out a lot of things from the corresponding chapter in the book. For context, the entirety of season 2 of the show used only around 20 pages of content from the book. The rest was made up by the writers to fill time. But let's start with how the chapter in the book starts, Daemon at Harrenhal, which is also a big storyline this season and possibly the most hated one by the fans. In the book, Daemon goes there at the same time that Jace goes up north and Luke goes south to then his demise. It's here that we first meet Alice Rivers and also where we get our first major change in the show. In the book, we get a small description of Alice as her history is a bit of an unknown, but we do get insight as to her relationship with Daemon. George writes, whatever her powers, it would seem Daemon was immune to them, for little is heard of this supposed sorceress while the prince held Harrenhal. So to answer the question, no, none of Daemon's hallucinations or visions are in the book, nor did Alice have any real effect on him. They essentially made up his storyline this season with his desires for the crown and his struggles with Alice, all just to see him have his last vision and for them to show Daenerys and the White Walkers at the end of the season, thinking we'd all cream our jeans. Meanwhile, the winter is coming stuff is just cringe. Now, I think in all seriousness, the real reason why they added this storyline this season is because they wanted to give Alice more screen time as her role in season 3 will increase. I will save the spoiler portion for the end of this video and explain what her role to come is for season 3 if you guys are interested. Moving on, in the first episode, we have Alicent and Criston Cole bumping groceries and tossing each other salad, and no, none of that is in the book either. To be honest, Alicent is barely a main character in the book, and her and Rhaenyra weren't really ever friends. They actually mostly always hated each other. At the end of the first episode, we get the blood and cheese situation, which I'm sure you may have heard, but it plays out differently in the book. Blood and Cheese first go to Alicent's room and strangle her as they wait for Helaena and her kids to come, as they knew Helaena would bring them every night to say goodnight to their grandmother. In the book, Helaena and Aegon have a third child, Maelor. Blood and Cheese make Helaena choose between her two sons, and she chooses Maelor, but they kill the other son and tell Maelor that his mother wanted him dead, which haunts him for the rest of his life. In the show, Maelor hasn't even been born yet and probably won't ever be born from what we know from Aegon's injuries, as he's incapable of having another kid. It's a little confusing to me as Maelor is involved in more parts of the story for season 3, but I guess they'll just skip that. Another difference is Ser Otto's character. In the book, he is the one who sends word to the Triarchy for help with the blockade, not Aemond, and the part of him at the end of season 2 as some prisoner is just not in the book. And speaking of the Triarchy, the part of Lannister meeting Admiral Lohar was not in the book, as well as Lohar is a man in the book, not a woman. Probably the biggest moment in season 2 though is the battle at Rook's Rest, which also plays out differently in the book. It's just like these writers took every big and important storyline of this chapter and decided to change it only for the purpose of filling more time for episodes. In the book, the entire thing is planned by Criston Cole. He wanted to lure one of Rhaenyra's dragon riders to the battle and then have both Aemond and Aegon attack it, both of them working together and in on the plan. In the show, it's obviously different as Aegon doesn't know about the plan and it's Aemond who almost purposefully is the one to injure him. In the book, like I said, they actually both fight, but the king goes down. His dragon does survive though in the book, and it's an extended storyline of different knights protecting the dragon that I just think they chose to not include. But yeah, so in the show, they make it seem like Aemond wanted to kill Aegon and become king himself, but it's just not the case in the book. After these events in the show, there is some debate about who should rule now after Aegon is badly hurt. Alicent even suggests herself it should be her, and they all shut her down. None of that is in the book as they immediately just know it's Aemond's job, and although it's not specifically mentioned, you could assume Alicent is not involved in the small council at all in the book. Now, the last storyline in the show and the way that season 2 ended is the dragon riders claiming dragons. This more or less plays out the same except for one key difference. Both in the book and the show, Adam, Ulf, and Hugh all get dragons, but the last dragon, Sheepstealer, who we saw at the end of Season 2 and can assume Rhaena will claim it, has a different rider in the book. A young girl known as Nettles claims the dragon, but the showrunners decided not to include her character in the show. This is actually one of the differences I'm not too mad about because I get it, to introduce and include a brand new character may just not be worth the time it would take. Like I said earlier, they really only used around 20 pages of content from the book for this entire season, so although there might be more small differences, these are all of the big ones that I noticed and thought were worth including in this video. The next part of this video will be what comes after these events, so spoiler warning for Season 3. The first event, which I believe will be the main story in Episode 1 of Season 3, is the Battle of the Gullet, as it happens immediately after Team Black gets their new Dragon Riders. Remember Rhaenyra's other kids, Aegon and Viserys? As they're on the ship to Pentos, the Triarchy runs into them and takes over their ship. At the same time, Jace and his dragon come to the rescue, as do 4 of the other new Dragon Riders, and it's a huge battle and they destroy mostly everything in the process. And there's a few character deaths that I don't want to specifically say, but it should make for a good scene or full episode in Season 3. After this, there's another big event as Aemon sees the growing threat of his uncle gathering an army at Harrenhal. And this is where more of the Alys Rivers storyline comes into play. Aemon grows impatient and plans to take over the Riverlands and Harrenhal, but as Daemon hears about this, he flees Harrenhal and him and Rhaenyra start heading to King's Landing. Without Vhagar there, it's open season for them taking the capital. Back at Harrenhal though, when Aemon gets there, he meets Alys Rivers and they start having a relationship, which is why the writers made her more of a main character in Season 2 because she's going to be by Aemon's side in Season 3. Meanwhile, at King's Landing, the City Watch is still loyal to Daemon, and him and Rhaenyra are able to take the throne, and Rhaenyra becomes queen, which is how Season 2 should have ended. The finale felt like an Episode 8 in a 10-episode season, where they could have done the Battle of the Gullet in Episode 9 and the taking of King's Landing in Episode 10, but due to various reasons, HBO decided to make the season only 8 episodes and have us wait another 2 years to see what will happen with these characters. Absolutely brutal. I didn't want to go too far in spoiling Season 3 in this video, just more of the events that should have happened at the end of Season 2. But if you guys want me to make a video on what will happen in Season 3, let me know in the comments. And thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one.